On Sunday, news outlet The Intercept published an expose on the alleged political motivations of Brazil's Lava Jato task force against former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and the left-wing Workers' Party. Based on leaked documents and messages, Brazil's newly appointed Justice Minister Sergio Moro and a team of prosecutors handling Lula's investigation spent hours plotting ways to stop him and the Workers' Party from returning to power. This includes preventing Lula from being interviewed during last year's runoff elections, allegedly due to fears he might turn the tide against now President Jair Bolsonaro. For over 2 years, then presiding Judge Moro provided strategic advice to prosecutors, including advance information on his rulings in order to undermine Lula's defense. Moro was one of the head judges in the Lava Jato investigation and the one who sentenced Lula to over 9 years in prison despite the lack of conclusive proof against the former president. On top of this, the lead prosecutor in the investigation reportedly admitted his worries about the lack of hard evidence against Lula during the trial. Our correspondent Brian Muir has more about these bombshell revelations.
The Intercept just released 3 articles showing that the Lava Jato investigation in Brazil worked to prevent Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva from speaking during the lead up to the 2000 elections, and that they worked to prevent the PT party from taking the elections, which opened the door for far-right President Jair Bolsonaro, who immediately hired Sergio Moro, the director of the Lava Jato task force, as his justice minister when he took office. This information is based on leaked conversations that were used in the Telegram social media app. And they also show conversations with Deltan Dallagnol, who's another one of the leaders of the Lava Jato task force, saying that he didn't think they had enough evidence to prove that Lula was involved in corruption in the Guarujá apartment complex case, which has resulted in him getting a 9-year prison sentence that he's serving right now. So this is interesting because from day one, the Lava Jato investigation has always worked in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. SEC, and the Swiss Federal Police. And through this investigation, they've worked in other countries. They've arrested Jorge Glass, the former vice president of Rafael Correa in Ecuador. They've raised charges against Michelle Bachelet in Chile. And in March of this year, the U.S. Department of Justice tried to give $680 million to the Lava Jato investigators as part of money that they had confiscated from Petrobras Petroleum Company so that they could open a private foundation. And this generated a lot of repercussion in the Brazilian media at this time. Now, about the evidence that was revealed, former presidential candidate from 2018, Fernando Haddad, is calling this the worst institutional crisis since the beginning of the Republic.
The Lava Jato investigation, led by the then Judge Sergio Moro, has a long and complicated story. It goes back to 2014, when the scheme to pay off politicians using a car wash to launder the money first came to light. It involved bribes paid by construction companies like Odebrecht for contracts with the state-controlled oil company Petrobras. Here are some key issues. In March 2014, the money laundering network known as Lava Jato was first revealed to the public. A year later, in March 2015, the Supreme Court published the first list of 49 people involved in the corruption scheme. And in March 2016, former President Lula was accused of holding hidden assets. In September of that year, Moro and his team accused Lula of being at the head of the corruption network. In April 2017, the Supreme Court expanded the investigation to include 98 more businessmen and politicians, including 8 members of President Michel Temer's cabinet. 2 months later, the newspaper El Globo revealed a secret recording in which President Temer approved an illegal payment. The Attorney General, Rodrigo Janot, requested corruption charges against the president. Judge Moro was still working on his case against Lula, and in July, the Workers' Party leader was sentenced to 9.5 years. But Lula was able to appeal in freedom. A second court ruling in January 2018 increased his sentence to 12 years and 1 month. And finally, on April 5, 2018, Judge Moro issued an arrest warrant, and Lula was taken into detention, where he has been ever since. Moving on, teachers and doctors in Honduras have restarted their protests against the privatization of education and healthcare. The protest began in the capital Tegucigalpa and other cities from early in the morning. After last week's mass demonstrations and strikes, the organizers gave President Juan Orlando Hernández until midday this Monday to answer their demands.
Good evening, people of Honduras. The platform for the defense of health and education informs. Firstly, that the government has until midday on Monday, June 10th, to respond to the 9 points put forward by us as a basis to begin talks. Secondly, we call for peaceful protest across the country from 7 a.m. in the locations and departments already agreed by the local organizations, in Francisco Morazán and the Suyapa Boulevard, in front of the UNA.
Major anti-corruption protests have been taking place in Haiti as thousands mobilized to demand the resignation of President Jovenel Moïse. At least 2 people have died and 5 are injured after police reportedly opened fire on protesters. These latest protests comes as a report by Haiti's Court of Auditors released earlier this month directly implicates the president and other top officials in a corruption scandal involving Petrocaribe funds. According to the report, Moïse received millions of dollars in bribes as part of road rehabilitation projects, which were meant to hide the misuse of almost $4 billion in loans from Venezuela's Petrocaribe program. Citizens have been taken to the streets since February to demand that Moïse resign from the presidency.
Because the justice system is not only weak, it's corrupted. The president said that himself, that he nominated 50 judges that were corrupted. So that's why we're asking him to leave, so that we can finally find a way to do the trial.
1 person has been confirmed dead in a helicopter crash in Manhattan, New York. The helicopter crash landed onto the roof of a 54-story building in Midtown Manhattan and caught fire, killing the pilot. The building, known as the Assa Equitable Center, houses the U.S. headquarters of the subsidiary of the French-based insurance and banking company. And coming up after the break, Barbados opposition leader launches a new party and protesters demand that a Portuguese bank unblocks and returns millions in funds to Venezuela. Welcome back. Barbados opposition leader Joseph Atherley has launched the Socialist Democratic People's Party for Democracy and Development. Atherley, who left the Barbados Labour Party soon after its victory during the 2018 elections, says his new party will focus on policies and governance surrounding Barbadians' growth and development. Atherley adds that some Barbadians were already disappointed with the ruling party's performance. Barbadian Prime Minister Mottley has assured citizens that the island's economy is on the mend as she called on Barbados diaspora to contribute to national development. Mottley was speaking at the recent town hall meeting in the UK, hosted by the island's High Commission in London.
We're going to build the commitment of people to go beyond the call of duty to build out our nation to be great. I don't want to sound like the man who visited this town earlier this week. But we have, if we are being honest, work to do. And we have to do the heavy lifting to make sure that Barbados can stand tall and stand for what it stood for in the past, but even build upon that to transform a nation and to transform a people.
In Portugal, a group of protesters gathered in front of Novo Banco's main headquarters in the capital, Lisbon, demanding that the bank release millions owed to Venezuela. Currently, the bank has blocked over $1 billion belonging to the South American country. News of the protest was announced by Venezuela's Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza via Twitter as he highlighted the importance of the demonstration. Argentina's ruling party Cambiemos has suffered a heavy defeat in Sunday's local elections. Here's our correspondent Sabina Roth with the details.
3 new defeats for the Cambiemos party and its alliances on Sunday. In the province of Tucumán, with 40% of the votes counted, Juan Manzu won with 52%, beating Silvia Elias de Perez, the candidate for Cambiemos, who had 19%. In third place with 12% is Ricardo Butzi, the son of Antonio Butzi, who was charged with genocide. In the province of Chubut, current governor Mariano Aristoni won with 37%, followed by the Kirchnerist Carlos Linares with 31%. And in third place by a landslide is the Cambiemos candidate Gustavo Mena. In Entre Rios, the current governor Gustavo Borde has won with 57%. In second place is Altilio Benedetti with 33%, a clear triumph for the United Peronism. In the province of Jujuy, there was a slow count with only 22% of the ballots tallied. Meanwhile, Governor Gerardo Morales is up with 44% against the traditional Justicialista Party. Julio Ferreira recorded 31%, while Senator Guillermo Snopek trailed in third place with 11%. Now for the internal elections in Mendoza, Alfredo Cornejo and Senator Fernandez won the nominations. 3 major defeats for Cambiemos and only 1 victory.
Thanks, Sabrina, for that report. With the largest lithium reserves in the world, Bolivia is looking to be a future leader in the production of the much-needed energy sources. As such, the Bolivian government has started a long-term process of industrialization for the extraction and production of these materials.
This is the first fair promoted by state company Bolivian Lithium Deposits, created a decade ago. Here, suppliers can offer their products, as their sales can amount to $100 million this year alone.
We are constantly in need of new suppliers, more inputs. That is the goal of this fair. We have divided the fair in 4 parts: goods, services, works, and consultancy.
As a state-owned company is always looking to grow, after an experimental phase, at least 4 products will enter the industrial production phase.
After finishing our pilot period, we have closed the industrialization phase in doing the potassium chloride pilot, cathodic materials pilot, lithium-ion batteries pilot. We have closed our industrialization cycle in order to give an added value to our raw materials.
As industrialization is set to begin, Bolivia already has the greatest reserves of lithium in the planet. On top of this, the country is starting to industrialize the manufacture of potassium carbonate, which is used as fertilizer and is exported to Brazil.
Within our salt deposits are the elements we want to extract, like potassium, lithium, magnesium, and more. What we do is we extract the liquid and it goes through pools for a process of evaporation. The process of evaporation creates the raw materials for the production of potassium chloride, magnesium chloride, lithium carbonate, and sodium chloride.
The resources extracted from Bolivia's salt flats are considered strategic for the creation of electronic products that need lithium batteries, like cell phones or electric cars. As such, the government of Bolivia plans to complete the industrialization of their salt-based resources by 2030.
The president of Mexico led an event over the weekend in the city of Tijuana to celebrate the agreements reached with the U.S. These agreements effectively stopped tariffs which the U.S. president threatened to impose on all Mexican products starting on Monday. As part of the deal reached, Mexico is set to bolster security across the nation, but in particular on the southern border. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador declared the deal as a win during the event, which was planned in defense of Mexico's dignity and as a show of friendship with the people of the U.S.
Luckily, yesterday, politics prevailed over confrontation. We reaffirm our commitment of contributing to avoid migrants from crossing our national territory to get into the United States. But we will never do that by violating the travelers' human rights.
Meanwhile, asylum seekers have continued to cross the border between Mexico and Guatemala 2 days after the immigration deal was signed. Asylum seekers were seen attempting to cross the Sichuate River on Sunday afternoon, hours before Mexico deployed thousands of security forces to the area. According to Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard, the deployment of 6,000 members of the National Guard will start on Monday.
It's a strong measure. The truth is, as humans, as Central Americans, the Mexican president is acting badly. Because supposedly, we are all Central American countries, giving a hand to each other and coming together. I believe that if we had come together as Central Americans, as brothers, Donald Trump would not be taking such absurd measures against us.
Brazil's landless workers movement is opening up new stores across the country, not only to sell agroecological products, but to serve as centers for political debate. Let's find out more.
Just days ago, the landless workers movement opened its first store in the northeast of Brazil, located in the historic center of Recife in the state of Pernambuco. This is the movement's fifth store in Brazil. They offer more than 130 organic products produced by farmers from different parts of the country. The store also has hundreds of books about conscious food consumption and universal progressive thinking.
It's about offering non-transgenic, organic and agroecological food. We are offering the population the option of eating healthy food, which for Brazilians is difficult to achieve. We are one of the countries with the highest toxin levels in agriculture in the world. Researchers have said that each person in Brazil takes on approximately 7 liters of poison a year. According to reports, that poison is on our tables.
This is also a place for debate. People come and speak against the new pension system reform and in favor of the freedom of Lula. These things are constantly being debated here in the store.
The store is also a place to come together for political and ideological work. Organizers themselves say that this is a place that nurtures the body and the spirit of the militants of the MST. Its closeness to the emblematic places for political rallies and cultural events helps to bring together representatives of the left in Pernambuco.
I think we're missing a place like this in REPUB, a place to gather the militant so that people can discuss about the current political situation in Brazil. It is a place that is coherent with our way of thinking. Because we're here drinking organic tea, buying organic fruits and vegetables, and meeting friends. This is a place where people feel the transformation process is already happening.
We took the initiative and created a bicycle committee called Lula Libre. This is a group of people who go out and bike every Sunday and on holidays to campaign for Lula's immediate freedom, because we believe that his prison sentence is unfair, as no evidence was ever presented during his case.
The objective of the MST stores is to provide society with access to the goods brought by agrarian reform, to awaken the consciousness and put a spotlight on the campesino struggle for land, to establish alliances between family farmers, settlements of the MST and cooperatives, as well as offering organic food free of agrotoxins.
And coming up after the break, we'll tell you about Botswana's gay sex illegal challenge, and a former Pakistani leader is arrested. We'll tell you why. Welcome back. Sudan's ruling military council have released a leading member of the People's Liberation Movement North political party. Yasir Arman, who had just returned to the country after living for years in exile, was detained for 5 days. He was convicted for his alleged involvement in an uprising that began in 2011 in the Blue Nile state and was sentenced to death in absentia. Another 3 prominent protest leaders who were arrested over the weekend were also released after they met with the Ethiopian Prime Minister. Meanwhile, the civil disobedience campaign has entered its second day, with most shops closed as people stay away from work in protest against military rule in Sudan. Much of the city remained shut down to pressure the ruling military council. The Sudanese Professionals Association issued the call for the nationwide strike to begin on Sunday, as a crackdown on protesters last Monday left dozens of people dead.
The strike was 100% successful on its second consecutive day. The first day was 100% successful and 95% on its second day for now. I've been looking for an open pharmacy since this morning, and I haven't found any medication until now.
Rwandan authorities have temporarily reopened the country's busiest border crossing with Uganda to allow heavy goods vehicles to cross. The border will stay open for 2 weeks to help authorities assess the safety and efficiency of heavy truck movements following renovation works. It had just been closed for just over 3 months. As a result, an estimated 70% of border trade was stopped, severely impacted business and daily lives. Botswana's High Court is to rule on Tuesday in a case challenging the criminalization of gay sex. Homosexual acts are outlawed in the country under the Penal Code of 1965. An unnamed applicant is challenging two sections of that code that threaten offenders with a jail sentence of up to 7 years. The landmark case is being watched across Africa after Kenya recently upheld its own anti-homosexuality laws.
Because there are many services that we require as gay men that some nurses are not aware of. And if you go to a government hospital, there'll be those negative comments said to you. So we just want to be free to access these services. I think it will be a great disappointment if we lose this.
Rescue efforts are underway at a gold mine in Morogoro, Tanzania, after 5 miners died when it collapsed on Sunday. 5 others are being treated in hospital. It is not yet known how many people are trapped underground at the unlicensed mine. Authorities had previously ordered the closure of the mine where small-scale miners work. Ghana has surpassed South Africa to become Africa's top gold producer. Data released by the World Bank has indicated that last year mining ministries in Ghana produced 4.8 million ounces of gold compared to South Africa's 4.2 million ounces. Ghana is benefiting from lower cost mines, friendlier policies, and new development projects. On the other hand, output is shrinking in South Africa as operators face high costs, regular strikes, and the geological challenge of tapping the world's deepest mines. Iran has accused the U.S. of bringing further instability to the Middle East with its latest peace plan. Foreign Minister Mohammed Javad Zarif said Washington is trampling on the rights of Palestinian people while declaring that Iran has never started a war and will never do so.
The Middle East is that the United States, under the euphemism of the deal of the century, has committed a new crime by forcibly walking over the rights of the Palestinian people. It is this that has brought danger to the region.
The former president of Pakistan, Asif Ali Zardari, has been arrested in Islamabad on corruption charges. A high court has rejected extending bail for him and his sister as they were accused of having false bank accounts and of money laundering. Zardari, who was president from 2008 to 2013, had previously spent 11 years in jail on corruption and murder charges. And now from the Cricket World Cup in the United Kingdom, heavy rains have halted the match between South Africa and West Indies in Southampton. South Africa stand at 29 for 2 in 7.3 overs. West Indies, who are yet to bat, won the toss and opted to field. South Africa have so far lost all their 3 matches of the tournament. West Indies won their opening match against Pakistan but lost to Australia. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesperenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesper English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.